Mother-in-law invites husband's ex-girlfriend to all family events to prove he made the wrong choice. Everything escalated when my husband lost his patience at his mother's birthday and cut her off from our lives forever. I'm 28 and have been married to Sean, also 28, for 2 years. Before that, we dated for 2 years, but we've known each other since high school. We only started dating a couple of years after college. We ran into each other at a restaurant, exchanged numbers, went on a few dates, and that's how we got to where we are now, nearly 4 years later. Before me, Sean dated another girl from our school, Diana. She was a year below us and had been with him since middle school. Sean and I didn't talk much back then, but we had many mutual friends, so I often saw him with Diana. After high school, we lost touch because he went to college out of state, and we barely saw each other. When we finally reconnected at that restaurant years later, I asked about Diana. He told me they had broken up a year and a half earlier. Diana had initiated the breakup because she wanted a different life and decided to take a break from relationships to explore the world. But she also said she might come back to him someday. That clearly meant she just wanted to be free to date other men without guilt, while keeping Sean as a backup plan. After the breakup, they stayed friends, though Sean started distancing himself from her. By the time we met again, he had mostly moved on. I also began to see him differently. He had changed a lot since high school. Sean and I quickly and naturally bonded after that encounter, and we've had a light and easy relationship ever since. Sean says it was never like that with Diana. She always made him chase her because she thought it made her more desirable. She flirted with other guys, hung out with friends without contacting him for days, and never considered how her behavior affected him. He stayed with her because he was young and naive, and partly because he thought he had to maintain the relationship, simply because they'd been together for so long. Another reason was his mother, who was a big fan of Diana. Diana spent a lot of time with my mother-in-law, Sharon, 49, while she and Sean were together. When Diana came over, Sharon would always praise her and behave completely differently. Sean told me that even after the breakup, Sharon kept inviting Diana to family events and holiday dinners. He asked her to stop, but she insisted that she loved Diana and that they were still good friends despite the breakup. So Sharon saw nothing wrong with continuing to invite her. They communicated weekly and really did have a good relationship. This continued even after I started dating Sean, and he introduced me to his family. At first, I found it strange, and I still do. But there was a reason I tolerated it for so long. The first time Sean brought me to meet his family was 4 years ago at Christmas. By then, we had been dating for almost 8 months. Diana was also there and behaved horribly toward me the whole time. She nitpicked my looks, height, makeup, style, everything. She did it subtly, like it was just harmless joking, but Sean saw what she was doing and tried to stand up for me. However, Sharon immediately shut that down by bluntly asking me if I had a problem with Diana's jokes, putting me in an awkward position. I knew that if I said I didn't like it, they'd think I was insecure and demean me even more. So I chose to act indifferent and said I didn't care. It was a petty move on my part, but as soon as I said it, I noticed their faces change. They looked surprised and irritated. When we got home, Sean apologized for Sharon and Diana's behavior and promised he wouldn't let his mom invite her again. But I told him not to do that. I understood who I was dealing with and didn't want to show weakness, if you know what I mean. I didn't want Sharon and Diana to believe they had intimidated me or made me insecure, because they hadn't. I felt I had something to prove. I explained this to Sean, and although he was surprised, he didn't interfere in our clashes after that. Since then, at every family event Sharon hosted, Diana was always there, and each time they treated me the same. Snide remarks, double-edged compliments, constant mentions of Sean and Diana's past together, even when completely irrelevant just to make me uncomfortable. I endured it all and tried to remain calm. Sharon even hinted a few times that Diana would have been a better daughter-in-law and more suitable for Sean. It annoyed me, but I tried not to show it. As long as Sean was by my side, I didn't care what they said. So I let Sharon and Diana talk all they wanted. That's how I've dealt with them for the past 4 years, and I plan to keep doing it for as long as necessary. I was determined not to be the first to lose patience. Now, to what happened recently. 3 days ago, Sharon celebrated her birthday and hosted a family and friends party. Sean didn't want to go because one of his colleagues was celebrating their engagement on the same day, and he wanted to attend that instead. He had a good reason. Engagements don't happen often, and they were close, but Sharon pressured him into promising he'd come to her party, wearing him down with constant requests. So we decided to go. As usual, Diana was invited, and for some reason showed up looking like she was attending a red carpet event. Even Sharon was overdressed, but at least it was her birthday. We planned to leave right after Sharon cut the cake so we could head to the engagement party. Around 5:30 p.m., my father-in-law brought out the cake, and to our surprise, there were 2 cakes. One said, "Happy almost anniversary." Sean and I had no idea what it meant, and neither did the guests. Everyone waited for an explanation. But instead, Diana took the initiative. She grabbed Sean's hand and pulled him toward her. We were both so shocked we couldn't move. Suddenly, Sean was the center of attention. Then Diana began telling a story. Nearly 10 years ago on Sharon's birthday, Sean had knelt down and given her a promise ring. They were both 18 and about to head to different colleges. Now, 10 years later, she still had the ring and proudly showed it to everyone. She awkwardly hugged Sean, but he didn't hug her back. Sharon encouraged them, saying she'd step aside so they could celebrate what could have been. The whole thing was so ridiculous that Sean and I stood there, mouths open, just like everyone else. No one said anything for several minutes. No one knew how to react to such an absurd situation. Diana kept cheerfully talking about how Sean was her almost husband, Sharon her almost mother-in-law, and this was their almost anniversary. As if the guests didn't understand the joke, then Sharon cut the so-called anniversary cake to feed it to Sean. She gave a piece to Diana first, then tried to feed Sean, but it seemed he finally snapped. He pulled away from his mother when she brought the cake to his face. Sharon looked surprised and asked what was wrong. That's when Sean began yelling at her and Diana for what they'd done. He exploded and finally released years of pent-up anger right there at the party. He called them both shallow, stupid, selfish, and said he was ashamed to have ever dated Diana or be related to Sharon because they were the most repulsive women he'd ever known. Honestly, even I was shocked by this outburst. Sean is usually calm, rarely raises his voice or gets angry. It takes a lot to push him that far, and Sharon and Diana had finally done it. After Sean finished yelling, we left the party and took a taxi straight to his colleague's celebration. I tried talking to him in the taxi, but he looked really upset and said he didn't want to discuss his mom or his ex right now. So I dropped it. When we arrived at the other party, Sean's mood noticeably improved. He started chatting with his friends and colleagues, and I could tell he was feeling better. By the time we got home, he seemed much calmer, so I brought up what had happened at Sharon's party, thinking he might want to talk, but he didn't. Instead, he scolded me, saying part of the situation was also my fault. He agreed Sharon and Diana were trying to humiliate me with that cake, but added that I wasn't entirely innocent either. He reminded me that for years I had insisted he stay out of it and not intervene, allowing Sharon and Diana to behave however they wanted, just because I wanted to prove I didn't care. I had turned it into a battle of pride, needing to show I was unbothered, completely forgetting that Sean was also involved and suffering. No one even thought to ask how he felt about all this. He didn't expect support from his mother or ex, but he did expect it from me. And he said I'd let him down by putting my own feelings above his. We argued that night. I told him he was being too harsh and unfair to me. But now, with a clear head, looking back, I think he was right. For years, I made my husband stay silent while his mother kept inviting his ex to family events to put me down. Update 1, earlier this evening, I apologized to Sean. I read the comments, thought a lot about it, and discussed the situation with several of my friends. I came to the conclusion that I was wrong, and everything he said that day was true. I put my feelings above his, and was so focused on pretending that Diana and Sharon's behavior didn't bother me that I didn't even consider it might be upsetting for Sean. For his sake, I should have let him put an end to it if that's what he wanted. I made him suppress his feelings for years just to win some twisted mind game with people I don't even like. And in the end, I jeopardized the only relationship that truly matters to me. I seriously messed up and I knew I had to fix it. Sean had been avoiding me since the party and I was trying to act like I didn't care. That's my usual response, and it's always been a problem because I pretend nothing bothers me even when it does. I want to be seen as calm and unshakable, so I act that way and suppress my emotions. I now understand how unhealthy that is. If I want to save my marriage, I clearly need to work on myself. Today I skipped work, ordered dinner from Sean's favorite restaurant, and bought a chocolate cake with "I'm sorry" written on it. I came home, set the table nicely, and created a romantic atmosphere because I know he loves sentimental apologies like in romantic comedies, and because I genuinely regret putting him through all of that. He came home in the evening after work and was really surprised by what I had done. He forgave me within 15 minutes of arriving. We had a tearful reconciliation, and I broke down because I was terrified of losing him when he stopped talking to me. We talked everything out, and now we're good again. I admitted I was wrong and explained that I have this constant need to appear relaxed and indifferent, like I don't care, doing it for no reason, just to seem cool and not show vulnerability. That's the real cause of all this mess, and he understood and appreciated that I acknowledged it and decided to work on myself instead of just suppressing my feelings. He also apologized for being rude to me. After dinner, we finally talked about what happened at the party with Diana and Sharon. I hadn't heard from either of them since the party, and with everything that happened with Sean, I had completely forgotten about them. But Sharon kept texting Sean endlessly, trying to make him apologize to Diana, who was supposedly devastated by Sean's behavior. I had to put in serious effort not to roll my eyes reading the messages Sharon sent my husband, trying to guilt trip him into apologizing to that woman. Sharon tried to make it look like the cakes and the whole almost anniversary thing were just a joke and had no hidden agenda, but I don't buy that for a second. We're talking about a married man. They should have had enough common sense to realize how inappropriate and disrespectful it was to me. They did it deliberately to humiliate me and are now just brushing off our feelings by saying it was just a joke and blaming Sean for going too far. Their audacity is just ridiculous. Sean kept ignoring her messages. Today, after I read them, we decided to cut off all contact with Sharon. We're tired of her behavior and don't want anything more to do with it. Update 2. 3 days ago, Sean and I blocked Sharon and Diana on all our social media. He also told his father he no longer wants contact with his mother. His father respects Sean's feelings, but refuses to get involved because he loves his wife and knows he can't stand up to her. So he's completely distanced himself from the situation, just like he has for years. I'm not happy with my father-in-law's behavior, but there's nothing I can do about it. The past 2 days were okay, but today Sean suddenly called me and said he was rushing to the hospital because his mom had supposedly fallen down the stairs and broken her leg. This was reported by his maternal uncle, and Sean immediately left, and so did I. We arrived at the hospital around the same time, but before we could enter, Sharon, completely healthy, stopped us. She and Diana had set us up in the parking lot, claiming this was the only way to get Sean's attention since he had blocked them everywhere. They clearly didn't expect me to come too, but just ignored me and started talking to Sean like nothing bad had happened. Diana tried to explain that everything she did at the party was just a prank, and she didn't mean to hurt him, and Sharon backed her up. Sean listened for a while and then told his mother and ex-girlfriend to go to hell right to their faces, then walked away with me. As we were about to get in our cars, Sharon started yelling at us, but we didn't stop to listen. I'm sure she was cursing us, but it didn't matter anymore. She lied just to see Sean again, and I can't think of anything more manipulative than that. Sean went home from the hospital. He was exhausted, and I had to go back to work. While I was at work, I got a call from an unknown number. It was Sharon. She screamed at me for 15 seconds before I managed to hang up. I was so shocked I picked up without thinking. She was literally shouting. Nothing but curses. I had nothing to do with Sean's behavior. She drove her own son to that point, not me. In the end, I blocked her and tried to get back to work. When I finally got home around 6 p.m., Sean and I had a talk. He told me he also blocked all other relatives close to his mom, including his uncle, because now it's clear Sharon is willing to do anything to manipulate him into forgiving them and reconnecting. That's all we can do for now, because they're not threatening us or stalking us. A restraining order isn't possible. Sean talked to his father and told him what happened today, but he still refuses to get involved. That's his choice. Sean loves his dad, so I don't say anything. But honestly, I don't think his dad's behavior is an example of good parenting. At the very least, he could talk to his wife and stand up for his son, but he won't even do that. Sean loves his father, but that man has never taken his side when it came to his mom. I've stayed silent out of respect for their relationship, but otherwise, I'd have plenty to say about their absurd, selfish family. I'll never understand how Sean can even be a part of that. Update 3. It's been over a week since the last update. Yesterday, we decided to file for a restraining order against Sharon and Diana because of what they did or tried to do to me. A few days ago, on Thursday, I was coming back from work. I usually stop at a coffee shop near the office on Thursdays to treat myself to a frappe. That Thursday was no different, until I walked in and saw Diana and Sharon standing up with coffee in their hands, heading straight for me. Before I could react, they threw coffee in my face. Then Diana scooped whipped cream from her cup and smeared it in my hair. I was stunned and just froze until the barista ran over to help me clean up. The staff did everything they could to help me, and I'm incredibly grateful. They literally dropped their work to assist me. I also thank the other customers who waited patiently while I tried to get myself together. My clothes were sticky and ruined, and my hair looked awful. But by the end, I felt a bit more put together. Several other customers made sure I was okay. One of them asked if I wanted to call the police. I agreed and filed a report on Diana and Sharon. I took them to court, but they got off with just a scare and a fine because it was considered a minor offense. They didn't cause physical harm. The only real damage was my clothes, which I can't wear to work anymore due to a stubborn brown coffee stain on the front. Still, I filed the report, and it'll be on their record, which might hurt them in the future. Sean wanted to make the incident public and post it on social media so more people would know to stay away from Diana and his mother. But he changed his mind when he realized, I just want to move on without more drama. Honestly, the whole incident really shook me. It sounds silly, I know, but it made me think. It could have ended much worse than just coffee to the face. They could have seriously hurt me if they wanted to. They knew my routine from social media. They knew where I lived. This could have ended in tragedy. Sean and I had a good financial year, and we had already been thinking about moving. After this, we're definitely moving. We've also been thinking about starting a family and will begin trying soon. However, my in-laws will never see my children. We also cut off contact with Sean's father after he again refused to get involved, even after the coffee incident. Sean had a big fight with him and then ended their relationship too. As for me, I feel relieved knowing I'll never have to see those people again. Let me know in the comments what you think of this whole story. Thank you for watching this video. to the end. Check out our previous video, subscribe, like, and good luck.